Hello. I want to welcome everybody to the first episode of Huck's DIY. We focus on projects small, large, and in between. We have a lot of great projects coming up. I hope everybody sticks around to see all those. And a lot of cool contests where you can win prizes, all the good stuff that should be going on. So our first project for this series is going to be floating shelves. Relatively simple, inexpensive to make, but they look pretty cool hanging on your wall, a big hunk of wood hanging on your wall. So what you're going to need for this is you're going to need some substrate, 1/2 inch, 3/8 inch material, quarter sheet, half sheet, depending upon the size of the shelf that you're going to make. You're also going to need some veneer, which any local woodcraft would have it for maybe 20 bucks. Some veneer glue, some yellow glue, a table saw or a circular saw with a nice fence that you can follow along with, air compressor, a pinner, either 23 gauge or 16 or 18 gauge nail gun will be just fine. Yellow glue to hold everything together, and of course safety glasses. Hearing protection, and push sticks. This is one from that I had a little kickback incident with. Now it was a big part that I was shoving through there. I should say thick, not necessarily wide, but it was narrow, thick, maybe about 12 inches long. Using this bad boy, and it kicked right back, hit me in the gut. Thank God I got a lot of padding there, but still left a nasty mark. And I'm just thinking that could have been my finger. So all this safety equipment's not necessarily just for you, it's for your family as well, so that they don't have to go through any trying times with anything that happens in the shop. So before we get started, let's discuss the construction of this. What you have is you have an outside frame for your substrate, you have a back, a front, of course the sides, and then in the middle basically it's a torsion box. So you have like 3 or 4 ribs in here, and in order to get the thickness for the ribs, whatever material you're using or whatever you're going to do for your attachment to the wall, whether it be with the Z-clips or French cleats, you need to know what this thickness is. And then, so say 1/2 inch. If you're using 1/2 inch material, you're going to use a 1/2 inch French cleat. So then your back's a 1/2 inch, your French cleat's a 1/2 inch, but you want your French cleat flush with your back. I don't know if you can get a really good picture, but you want your French cleat flush with the back. So a little bit of math involved just on the ribs, no big deal. Pretty simple project. And you'll notice on this one the back is solid. On the project one, you'll see that I've got a big hole here, and I would like to say that it was planned, but it necessarily wasn't. I kind of lost track of the parts, which labeling is very important, and I ended up cutting things that I shouldn't have, so I cut the back so I could say that that's going to be like a little safe back here, so you could stick stuff like money or whatever if you're one of the people who don't trust banks. You can just plop your money in the back of that, hang it on the wall, and nobody would be the wiser. So let's go ahead, let's get started and see how this project goes. one thing I gotta say that I'm gonna love about this is I know what Norm Abrams can go through. You can mess up and nobody will ever see it. Thank God for video editing. So with that, we have 5 ribs to go on this. 2 sides. There's going to be the split back. And here's the top, and the bottom's over here, and the front piece. Now, what you're going to have to do for your back to get your back depth, so you've already done the math, figured out what your position needs to be to make sure that your method, I'm going to use the French cleat, so to make sure that your French cleat is flush with your back. So I've done that. So now when you attach these to the, it doesn't really matter, you start at the top, bottom, it doesn't matter. So how we're going to attach this is I'm going to use a pinner. I'm going to take, this is my bottom, this is the side, and the sides and the ribs are different thicknesses, remember that. Or I should say different lengths, not thicknesses. So I'm going to put it on there, going to glue it, nail it, and this one is going to go right next to the side. And then I'm going to space these ribs accordingly throughout the entire piece. Now, I wouldn't get carried away with putting a ton of them on there. For a shelf this size, 5 is more than plenty. So you'll have 1 on each side, 1 in there dividing the center out to here, and then 1 in the dead center. And the reason why I say you don't have to go crazy, yeah, the ribs play a pretty important part, but you don't need to go overkill on it. I mean, you can if you want to practice shooting nails, but everybody knows how the torsion box system works, I hope. If not, I think Mark has a pretty good picture of that, a good movie or a podcast of that to explain how the torsion box works. And plus, this one's going to be hanging on the wall, so what I don't recommend using is like the particle board. I would recommend a good ply like this here. I'm using Baltic birch. Alright, so now we're going to attach the sides and the ribs. Alright, so then the back will come in right here. Beautiful. Sides, now the other rib. And we'll even be sloppy with this, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be on the inside, it's not going to be seen. Some 1-inch pins on all the ribs. Now this one here you know what I'm going to do first, since I messed up the back, I am going to I don't want to confuse this again. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this here is I'm going to mark where the end of this back is going to be at on both sides, so that I make sure to get these ribs in the right spot. Okay. So now that I got the spots marked for these other ribs so that the back is nice and supported, we'll go ahead and glue these bad boys into place. Pretty good. Pretty good. So now the back is nice and supported. Don't have to worry too much about that. Okay. Mark for the other rib right there. Fair amount of glue. And squish it around a little bit. Over just a fuzz. There we go. Got it. Alright, and now for this little center rib here, and that's the back. For this little center rib here, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. Nobody's ever really going to see that part anyhow, so go ahead and put that bad boy on there. Okay, so there we go. We've got the makings, unless of course you did what I just did. Not quite sure how that happened, but it's fixable. It's fixable. But see, I'll actually leave this little part in there because of be good good learning experience for everybody. So I'm going to take these little pins out and we'll put them back on. It's time to put the top on our frame, pretty much just like the bottom. This time I'll make sure it's flush. So once again, glue. So set that right on there. And we just want to make sure that we are lined up here. Start with one corner and come over to the other side. And it looks like gonna need a little persuasion. Okay. Got that on. That one. Alright, looking pretty good. And because of my little goof up, okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this back put in place, and the last thing we'll do is we'll throw the front on, and then we'll get ready to cut up some veneer. So, once again, plenty of glue there. You can probably be a good idea to do the top and the bottom of the back. Couple of pins there, couple through the bottom, and voila, to this other side. So we'll put this last piece of the back in, then the front is ready to be put on. In there, nice little tight fit. Couple of pins, top and bottom. So now all we got to do is put the front on. I really don't get too carried away with spreading this glue out, real. Not on these. They once they go together and you wrap the veneer around it, they're pretty sound structurally. And I haven't really tested it to see exactly how much weight these things can hold hanging on a wall, but I imagine it's a good amount of weight, I would imagine. Okay, and one mistake I made is I always mark where the ribs are at before I do this to make this part of it easier. So I'm kind of looking for the old, where the pin marks are at, and hope that I was close. No big nails sticking out, so we'll let this dry up and we'll be ready to go on with the veneering. That does it for this week. Thank you all for watching. Join us next week. We'll be cutting the veneer, putting it on the shelf. Hopefully this little cold I got is gone, so I'm not clearing my throat every 3 seconds. If you got any questions or comments about this week's show, please go to huxdiy.com and I'll try to answer them the best that I can. Remember, in your shop, safety starts with you. Thanks a lot. See you next week.